So this is February 17th, 2026. I'm Dale Fisk, and I'm going to be interviewing Morris Krigbaum at his home in Meadows. And I guess that's all we need for now. I wanted to start off, Morris, when and where were you born?
Well, I was born in the house across Highway 55 to the south.
Right.
I was born in 1935 to Maud Merritt Krigbaum and Carl Osborne Krigbaum. He was my father.
Tell me some about their lives at around the time you were born. They were living in that house, I guess?
Well, they came up here just for the birth.
Oh, where did they live?
I have no idea.
Really?
They had lived in Grangeville earlier. He drove a bus from Grangeville over to Joseph Plains across the Snake River.
Yeah.
And so they'd lived up there. My brother was about 4 years older. He and Corky were cousins. They were both 4 years older than I was.
And who was your brother?
Lemoyne Ray Krigbaum.
And how much older was he than you?
4 years.
4 years, okay. And so what were your parents' lives about the time, about time you were born? You say they were living in Grangeville, you think, maybe?
And it was desperate.
Yeah.
Because that was the height of the Depression,
Right.
1935. And my father had worked in the CCCs, with Civilian Conservation Corps, rebuilding old roads or making trails into roads wherever the government wanted to put them, because people couldn't get a job. So the government hired them, and they made the road up the Salmon River and the dirt road. And they made a lot of roads around here.
Yeah. Now, when you say up the Salmon River, you're talking
From
about
Riggins.
above Riggins?
Yeah, from Riggins up, going
up
to,
the Salmon
toward,
from...
was it French Creek?
Yeah.
Up in there, and then they stopped somewhere. I don't know why they stopped. Maybe the Depression was over and they needed people in the Army.
Yeah.
So they quit the CCC work.
Huh. So tell me about your early years, some of your first memories. Where did you live when you start remembering what was going on and what was going on in your parents' lives that you remember from your youngest years?
Well, I don't remember my dad because he died when I was 2 years old.
Right.
And so my mother, Maud Merritt Krigbaum, she'd gone to high school, but she didn't have a saleable skill. So she went to Boise with my grandmother helping her, and I stayed with my grandmother. And my brother, Lemoyne, he lived down on the Salmon River. Merritt family had about 6 kids or more, and they had moved down the Salmon River. The women married Salmon River guys, and
Where at on the Salmon River?
do you know where that sawmill is? As you go right down across the bridge and go down, there's a sawmill there, or was. Shepherd, I think, owned it.
Huh.
And they lived in that area.
Yeah.
Little Salmon River.
Oh, the Little Salmon.
Yeah.
How far from Round Valley and that where the highway and the river drops down?
Probably 15 miles.
Oh, quite a ways down in there.
Yeah.
Huh. So where did you first go to school?
The first school I went to was Meadows School, the one that burned this past
Right, yeah.
And I went there in the 1st through the 5th grade while my mother got training. And then she moved to Osborne, Idaho with my older brother, Lemoyne, and she was running a beauty shop in the back of a guy's house. He was the barber. He ran the barber shop.
Yeah.
So they moved up there, and I stayed here.
Who were you staying with here?
My grandmother,
Okay.
Annie Elizabeth Krigbaum.
Uh-huh.
And I lived with them, my Uncle Phil and my Aunt Zora, she's my blood relative. They worked on the ranch from the 20s until their death.
So you went through the 5th grade here in that school?
Yes, in that school.
Yeah, then what did you do after that?
After that, I moved from here, Meadows, Idaho, up to Osborne, Idaho, which is right by Kellogg, between Kellogg and Wallace, Idaho. That was a mining area,
Right.
big mines. I remember when I was a kid there, I'd walk out to the stream, river, and it was flowing mud. They didn't clean anything out. They just dumped it in the river and it went to Coeur d'Alene.
Wow. So after your dad died, was your mother surviving by in a beauty parlor?
As a beauty operator, yeah.
And how long was it before she remarried, and who did she remarry?
It was about 7 years after my father's death. My mother met a guy up in the Kellogg-Wallace area named Herb Kessel. And he was from Coeur d'Alene and Worland, Montana, and Dodson, Montana, before that. And he was a baker. And so when she married him, we moved from Osborne down to Kellogg. And he worked in a bakery there. Well, when he worked in the bakery, he met a guy named Hap Ralston. And this guy was a master baker, and my stepfather was too, eventually. And so Hap Ralston moved to Walla Walla. And he said, "Come on down, Herb." So we moved to Walla Walla. And we lived out, not in the town, but outside by a place called Grable's Pool, a swimming pool. And we lived there for probably a year or two. And then my stepfather, Herb Kessel, heard from his brother in Libby, Montana. His name was Ted Kessel. He was the oldest brother in the Kessel family. They moved up to Libby, Montana to live, and that was all in a year or two. So then Libby, I started school there in the 7th grade.
Okay, so about what year was that?
That would be 1945. We moved up there.
Was the war over by that time?
Well, I was still in Osborne at the time President Roosevelt died. And then we moved, I noticed I didn't tell that story. We moved from there.
You can tell any stories you want.
Well,
You didn't tell too much about your life in the grade school down here.
Oh,
Yeah, I wanted to back up a little bit at some point and talk about your life here, some of your relatives, and what Meadows Valley was like when you were in your earliest memories.
okay. Well, when we went to school, there were no buses. So you either walked home, and I did it occasionally on good days, or my aunt would come after me, or I'd get a ride some way and get home.
How far was
1
it?
mile.
A mile.
1
okay.
mile
Yeah,
from Meadows.
that's a good walk.
Yeah. Well, it was fun in the spring, you know.
Oh,
just
yeah.
throw a lot of rocks and
But
no
when it's-
houses.
But when it's 20 below, it wasn't that fun.
Well, I didn't walk too many 20 below, or I wouldn't be here probably.
Anyway, what are some of your memories of what the area was like in those days when you were going to school?
Well, I remember that the teacher made a wood fire, and there were 2 rooms on the bottom. And first through the 4th grade was in the class I was in, and you'd learn other things other than just your subject, because you'd be listening to what they were talking about, the 2nd grade, 3rd grade, and 4th grade.
So 1st through 4th were all in the same room?
Same room. And then the 5th through the 8th were in the next room over.
And that was on the 1st floor?
Yeah, on the 1st floor. The 2nd floor wasn't actually used. The only thing I remember about it was in sometime in the 40s, they had what they called a box lunch, where a woman would make a lunch, and then you'd bid a whatever. I didn't have any money, but my aunt bid, and I ate with Inez Wilson. She was George Wilson's wife down in right beyond Meadows. And I remember she was such a pretty lady, and when she'd come out, she was good friends with my Aunt Zora. She'd come out and she'd get up behind me and she'd kiss my neck and say, "I see a strawberry."
Now, was she a teacher or what was her
No,
role?
she was a rancher's wife.
Oh, and she was just involved because of the box lunch thing?
Well, because they were good friends
Oh,
with the Krigbaums.
oh, I see.
She, Inez Wilson was. She is a wonderful lady.
Yeah? Huh.
She was an independent lady too. Her husband didn't do something. I think she wanted to have kids, and he, no, I don't want. So she went to San Francisco and got in the army, and she was married to him.
Yeah.
So he begged her back, and she came back, and they had 2 children.
Who are some of the other people that might be remembered by other people? In other words, people that were fairly well known when you were a child.
Well, I remember Howard Dryden. He was a Democrat from Meadows, Idaho, and
Yeah.
he was really a nice person to me. He gave me good advice, and he was married to my grandmother's half-sister,
The Clays.
Clay.
Lizzie?
Lizzie, no, not Lizzie, it was
Minnie.
Minnie Dryden.
Oh, right, right.
Clay.
Yeah.
And I thought it was pretty interesting how Howard Dryden came to this valley.
Oh, yeah? How's
They
that?
had a racetrack between Meadows and here, mainly bed down toward Meadows. And he came as a jockey.
Really?
And boy, he was smart and aggressive. And he bought a place from Freeman. Freemans were big out toward what they call Whitney Ranch now,
Right.
at the end of that road.
Uh-huh.
But the Freeman, he had a stage that went to Grangeville, and then he had raised cattle, and they owned that whole area over to the south,
Oh.
but beyond Rainey's land. Rainey wasn't here at that time.
Mhm.
This was the earlier days.
Let me make sure this is. So, yeah, we can. In my talk, I'm going to talk about Eston Freeman, John Eston
Yeah,
Freeman.
that's- He married Lizzie Clay.
Right.
That was my grandmother's half-sister.
Yeah. I don't want to go down your family line that far back yet.
Okay.
I want to concentrate on your early years, and then we'll go way
Okay.
back to the Osbornes and all
Okay.
that. But
Sounds good.
so what are some of, getting back to some of the people you knew when you were a kid here, like, well, you're related to the Clays and the Osbornes and,
Campbell.
yeah. So did you have much interaction with those people?
When
you
my
were-
grandmother went to visit her sisters and brothers, she might take me or she might leave me.
Yeah.
You know, depends on her mood or my mood. I don't know what.
Yeah.
But I know that I was very fortunate as a kid because when I was probably 6 or so, I don't know, it was 42, I think, I started driving. Early days, there's a red barn on this side of the road between here and Goose Creek Trailer Park.
Mm-hmm.
That red barn was they had a derrick horse out back and a rope about that big. And so as a little kid, I went around back, and this person would pull the horse out and turn left, and come back, and then as they pulled the Jackson fork back,
Yeah.
lowered it down to get another load of hay to put in the barn. Well, the rope would be whistling down there, and I was a little kid all by myself, and I stuck my finger in the left finger in the pulley, and it crushed it. And so if you look at my finger, it's
He has
that
a
much,
6-year-old finger.
one thing shorter.
Oh, you're right.
His
Wow.
6-year-old's finger.
And Dr. Thurston said, we've got to cut it off. And my grandmother said, no, just set it. So he set it. This part didn't grow, but this part is a normal length. So I remember the guy that carried me up to, they called him Big Frenchie, that's all I knew. But he carried me up to the house, bawling, and so then he would, they took me to council. That was a trip
Yeah.
in those days. We'd always, if we needed a doctor, went to council.
Right. Who was the doctor, do you remember?
Dr. Thurston.
Thurston, that's what I was gonna say, yeah.
Marla, when she and I met, I told her we were hiking in Alaska in Juneau. We were 3,000 feet up above sea level. And I said,
Yes.
don't eat the white stuff on oranges because that makes you constipated. Because that's what Dr. Thurston told my aunt.
Really? Was he kidding or was he serious?
Well, I don't know, but we only got one orange a year, so shouldn't be too constipated.
Not too many oranges growing in Alaska.
No.
So I wanted to ask you, in some of the interviewing that Mickey did, you talked about the little ski hill and some of your,
Okay.
and a bus ride there and.
And I found a picture of it yesterday,
Oh, yeah?
of the lodge.
Oh.
Well, at that time, now it's on the road, highway.
Uh-huh.
But at that time, it was back against the hill. It was a log building, and you go in there to get warmed up. And if you went up the hill to ski, I only remember doing it once. I don't know why, but the thing I liked about that was as the bus came up to this house, my aunt had called them, would you stop the bus and pick up my nephew? And so they stopped the bus, and I took my skis and got on the bus.
How old were you at this time?
Let me see, what year was that?
It was while you were going to school here?
Yeah, it was while
Well, somewhere between, must have been when you were old enough to ski, so.
Yeah, but I wasn't too good. I only went up, I remember going up once, and that they had a boat, and instead of a T-bar or a chair, it was just a boat, and you climbed in the boat, and there'd be about 6 or 8 people in there, and you hold your skis up above,
Yeah.
and they'd pull you up on the hill. Well, then, when that was only one time, but I was thinking of another time, something special. Carl Brown had a mill over in McCall, the Brown Mill, and he and my grandparents knew each other quite well because my grandfather sold him a team of, or several teams of horses.
You're talking about Ross Krigbaum, right?
Ross Krigbaum, and he sold him the horses, and he had each one named, you know, naturally, for your horses, white forelock or whatever. So once my grandmother said, would you take my grandson down the Salmon River? And I went in a logging truck from here down to Hazard Creek.
For a ride. Was it for a ride?
Just for a ride. It was an
Oh.
adventure.
Oh.
So I was on the passenger side. The driver was over there. And we pulled off and they went up a real steep road. And when he got off the highway, he said, you get out and sit there, and I'll be back to get you. It's too dangerous to take you up there. So I sat by the highway about 2 hours while he went up the hill, got a load of logs, and came back. And then I have a picture of me standing on the logging truck when he got back up here.
Oh, yeah.
I thought that was pretty cool that I had that
They
adventure.
wouldn't do that nowadays. would they?
Probably not. So you started to talk about when you got on the bus out here.
Oh, okay. I got on the bus. They went up the little hill, stopped the bus, let me off, and I went skiing for that day. And that's when I rode the boat up and evidently skied down because I'm here. And
Did they have a ski jump there that you remember?
Yes,
at that
they
time?
did. And in fact, the picture I have shows people
Lots of
standing. They stood beside, you know, where they jumped. They came off toward the highway.
Mm-hmm.
And where they jumped, they people would just stand on each side to watch them.
Mm-hmm.
And that was pretty cool, I thought.
Was the jump where the jump is now?
If
kind
it's,
of
if it's on the north side of the hill,
It's on the west, up toward McCall from where the
yes, it
lodge
is.
is.
Yeah,
now.
that's
Yeah.
where it was.
Yeah.
I know we had a kid that lived down here at Goose Creek Trailer Park somewhere, or in a cabin. I can't remember which. His name was David Butts, and he was a ski jumper, and just as a little kid. And I remember when on the barn, the rope from the Jackson Fork that you pulled the Jackson Fork back up the rail, it broke. And so he was probably 14 or so. He got on that roof, took a rope and climbed up and leaned over the front and tied it onto the Jackson Fork so they could get,
When it was clear up in the top
yeah,
of the barn.
right in the front.
Yeah.
And he climbed in that, and he was brave.
Yeah.
Morris, tell about the campground.
Oh, the campground, this, where we're sitting here, had 8 cabins. And all they were was 12 by 14 cabins. No running water. The pitcher pump was out on the other side of the ditch here. And they would pump their water, and then if you had to go to the lavatory, it was an outdoor toilet, about 4 of them up through here. And they would, that's what they used, $1 a day was what and they built them in 35, the year I was born.
Oh, yeah.
I remember in one of them, when I tore that cabin down, it had a newspaper as a shim under the stringer, and I opened that newspaper up and it said, red salmon, 10 cents a pound. The can was 10 cents.
Oh, yeah.
So that was a little cheaper.
So who owned this land here? Was this Krigbaum?
Yeah,
place?
my grandmother.
Was it your family that had what
Yeah.
was it? What
Yeah,
call
they
it, campground?
had-
Yeah, we think it might have been one of the first campgrounds.
What did they call those? I can't remember, but
Well, they were
Well-
little slab cabins, and we gave people them, and they pulled them off. There's one down in New Meadows, and
yeah.
we had one for years, now we tore it down. Too bad we didn't make it into a little guest house or something, but.
Huh. Yeah, and this was in the late 30s, probably.
35,
Oh, around the time
when they
you were
built the
born.
cabins.
Oh, when they built them.
They were all rough lumber, 1 by 12s, pine, and they had a 2x4 running across the bottom on the floor, and then a 2x4 up on the top. That was it, and then wallpaper for insulation.
Yeah.
And
They had wood stoves in there too.
yeah,
Each of them had a wood cooking stove.
Before I forget, we should kind of orient people. We're across the road north of the old Krigbaum house. What's the address right here?
3338 Highway 55 now.
Okay.
Yeah.
That'll help people. And before I forget too, I know I'll ask this later, but Ross Krigbaum had a cabin.
Yes, over across the road here to the southeast, like right against the hill, there was a cabin, and unfortunately, I can't show you that stone, but John and I,
I've seen pictures of it, and we'll probably.
we took
Put it in
that
here.
stone out and brought it down and put it in our garden.
Was it the
Yeah.
Homestead House?
Yeah, from the homestead house.
Okay, so that cabin, was it on the other side of the highway?
Other
from here?
side of the highway.
And
yeah.
right against the hill.
This side of the highway, there used to be a red house up beyond this little cabin here,
Uh-huh.
and that was I think Ackley, not sure, but the guy that my grandmother gave him the land, he was up there to build the cabin.
And you said it was Atkinson.
Pardon?
Atkinson. Was the guy that built those cabins?
Yeah, it could be, I don't
They built
remember.
the cabins that were here.
Yeah,
No.
the
Oh.
eight cabins. And right out, you know that big pine out there?
Mm-hmm.
Out front, just before you go on the highway, there was a little shack, no windows, but it had a front that tilted up, and they called it the commissary. And that was where people in the cabins could buy whatever they sold in the commissary. So
Who was it that operated and took the money and?
I have no idea on
But
that.
it was probably your family, I guess.
Some
Yeah.
family member, I'm sure they didn't hire anyone.
Let's get back to that stone that we have a picture of.
Okay.
Where was that? Was it outside the cabin, in the
It
cabin?
was the front stoop.
Oh, I see.
of the
Yeah,
cabin.
right in front of the door, more or
Yeah, you
less.
just step on it. And it was, what do you think it weighed, John? Quite a bit, wasn't it?
350 pounds?
Yeah, 200 some pounds. It was a heavy,
Yeah, probably 250
we
pounds.
took it on a cart from out on the other side of that fence and pulled it up in, John probably did most of the work, pulled it up into this garden and then situated it.
Yeah.
And I took the pump from out there and put it in the garden.
Decorative.
From the
Pitcher
at the
pump.
cabin?
No,
Yeah, it
yeah,
was
for the
used by the
pitcher pump
people
for
in the
the
cabin.
cabins.
Oh, I see. Yeah. So how long was the old cabin across the highway there? How long was that there?
Well, I think he came here in the
Did he
1890s.
build that before he married
Yeah,
Annie?
I
Yeah.
think so.
And then did they live there before they built this house?
Yeah, I believe so.
Yeah.
But
Well, when
What
he
I was
built it,
asking was how long did that cabin, was it standing in your lifetime?
No.
Do you remember?
No.
Oh, you don't remember it at
all
all?
I saw in my lifetime was the stone, and I asked Corky, my cousin, who was living across the street when Marla and I moved here.
Well, there was some kind of a house there. It was kind of a frame little
Oh,
house.
that was the powerhouse.
Oh, that was the powerhouse. Because there were things in there that from the other house, I
Right.
think, or something.
It was at the time when they started the power in 1911, and when they started, they had a guy named Fatty McCulley. He and his wife ran the powerhouse. They had a, what do you call it, a piston?
Pelton wheel?
Pelton
well,
wheel.
mhm.
Right, they had a
It's,
Pelton.
we
wheel.
have it at the historical society.
You have that wheel?
Yes,
Yeah,
we
it's
do.
down
Oh, you have it?
in the depot.
Okay. Tell me a little bit more about that power plant. Where was it at exactly?
Well, right across the street, and as you go up, there's a log house
Uh-huh.
on your right, up here a couple hundred yards,
Uh-huh.
and it was straight against the hill. And there's still a big tank up there, and the pipe that brought the water. See, they got the water about a mile up, or 3/4 of a mile. When you come down around 55, there's a cement barrier now.
Uh-huh.
Well, right below it were, what do you call the water? It was to carry the water where it was.
Oh, like a flume?
Yeah, flume.
Yeah.
Okay, so they had a flume coming from
They
the
had a-
creek and then took it
Coming
all
from
over?
the creek was the stream, or the power dish. And then they had a flume, and there, right as you go up the first hump, there's a bridge right there. That was the power dish. And it went against the hill, down to the power plant. And if you had excess, that water was also used for irrigating over toward Rainey's and all this, called the West End
Ditch.
Ditch.
Huh.
And they would use the water for irrigation as well as for power.
I see. So how much of it was flume and how much of it was ditch?
Well, I'd say flume was probably 100 yards.
Right at the start?
Right
or-
by the cement barrier as you're coming down the canyon.
Yeah.
That's where the flume was.
Was there a road going, there was a road going up there when you were little.
Up the hill?
Yeah, up the
Yeah.
hill. And then it went under the road.
Huh. Yeah, it seems like I read somewhere that Ross Krigbaum was instrumental in making the first road up the canyon as opposed
Yeah.
to the one that went up over the...
We did.
I
Hill
think
here.
it was. And as you go up the highway in the summer, you look down, there's a new culvert there now, but you look down against the bank and you'll see a little cut road.
Oh.
It was not a highway, it was a cut road
Yeah,
Of
yeah,
course.
for wagons.
yeah.
Wagons.
I know about early wagon roads, they weren't much.
Yeah.
No.
Okay, well, let's get back to, so your mom remarried, and you lived in northern Idaho, and then was it Walla Walla after that?
Yeah, we went from Kellogg, we moved from Osborne, Idaho in 45 to Kellogg, Idaho, and I don't know how long we worked there. Must have been 2 years because, or maybe longer, because I was a sixth grader when I went up there, and then went to Walla Walla, and then they bought a bakery in Libby, Montana, and that was about 48.
Yeah,
And that was when I went to the 7th grade
uh-huh,
up there and then through high school,
I see. So you graduated from high school in Montana, and
Montana.
then where'd you go to college?
I went to college 1 year at Missoula, University of Montana,
Uh-huh,
and then I joined a fraternity, and I was too big a fraternity guy, and I sort of flunked out. So I,
flunked out of the fraternity or the
College.
school?
both of them,
Really?
and so I went back to Libby, and I got a job in what they called the zone light mine.
Didn't you join the Navy?
Oh, I did at 17. I joined the Navy in Spokane, Naval Air Service.
And this is after you graduated from high school?
Yeah, right after I graduated from high
Oh.
school. But the problem was I had to hitchhike from Libby to Spokane. They didn't have a car.
Oh.
So it was a tough go, and I did it for a while. In fact, they took me to San Diego for a summer training program as a Navy bottom of the list. And I remember this sergeant there. He said, "Wash these glasses," and they had orange juice or something in them. So I washed them and put them on the rack and sent them through. He brought them back, wash them again.
Huh?
And I learned then that when you mop the floor, do it right. And when you wash the glasses, get them clean.
Huh?
So I did that. And then I remember going to San Diego. We were in a military airplane. And we're, I think, 20-some thousand feet or 30. And the pressure went off. And I went to sleep like everybody else in the plane, and they just dropped down until we could breathe again.
Wow.
And it was fun.
So what year did you graduate from high school?
1953,
53.
yeah.
So your Navy experience was like from 53, so how long were you
Oh,
in?
53, it was just monthly meetings.
Oh, I see, it was kind of like a reserve?
Yeah,
type
reserve.
situation? I see.
I was just doing that. And
Uh-huh,
I didn't know anything about military, but I learned something.
yeah. And then where did you started college, did you say in Missoula? You went to school
Yes,
there?
that year. And then when I got out of, let me see, went back to Montana and worked for a year or so in the J. Neal's Lumber Company. I was on what they call the dry chain.
Mhm,
That was all the lumber was planed and everything.
mhm.
And they'd put about 5 boards on top of each other. They'd come off the planer,
Mhm.
and then you'd tie a string around them, and on each end there'd be 2 guys.
Yeah.
Tie a string, and then put it on rollers, and it'd go somewhere.
Huh.
And then eventually they'd take these bundles of lumber, and you'd put on another roller and send them to a guy inside a boxcar, and he would stack them.
Huh.
So I did that for quite a while.
Yeah.
Actually, worked as at the beginning, as a guy that went around, they had a air hose everywhere, where you attached your hose. And under the planer, you'd stick that air hose, metal tube, and it'd blow the sawdust out so the machine wouldn't plug up.
Right.
Well, I learned right away, they said, don't reach under that, because they had belts on all the planers, and if something broke loose, and if it grabbed you or the blower, then that'd be it.
You already stuck one finger in the wrong place.
Yeah, I
Do it again.
That was not too smart.
Okay, I kind of want to go through your life from college on when you became a teacher and some of your
Okay.
adventures in Alaska, but I don't want to dwell on that too
Okay.
long. So can we just kind of go through,
Yeah,
kind of have an outline of after college? Where'd you go after Missoula? You went somewhere else to school?
I went to Eastern Washington State College in Cheney, Washington, right next to Spokane,
Oh,
about 15 miles out.
mhm.
And I went there to finish my degree get a bachelor's degree
In what?
in education.
Okay.
So I came, well, guess where I taught my first year?
Where?
Meadows School, where I went to the first grade. I went to the
Really?
first grade, and that first place I taught.
And what year would that have been?
That was in 1964.
Yeah.
1964.
Well, you went in the Army, didn't you, before you went to college?
Yes, I did.
Was that the Army or the Navy? Or
No.
Army.
Well, the
Oh,
Army.
I was all finished. I took all my clothes, Navy clothes, back to the place, checked all out, and got out of the Navy Reserve.
Uh-huh.
So then I went to the Army in 1957,
Uh-huh.
and I was in there 2 years. I was an enlisted person. You
Was
know,
Korea going at
drafted.
that time?
No, it was 1957 was between.
Was it after the Korean War?
Yeah, that was 53, I think.
Oh, okay.
Well,
Well,
I think
not
you need to tell them
53.
where you went when you were in the Army.
Oh, in the Army,
Your biggest part.
I was shipped. I met a guy from California named Dave McGeorge. He was from Oakland, right near San Francisco.
Mm-hmm.
And there was another guy from Missouri. The three of us went from Fort Ord. And my only memory of Fort Ord was if someone says, "Hey, soldier," run like hell. And so you'd run to get away from them so you didn't have to do what they wanted you to do
Oh.
to get back to your barracks. And so I went to Fort Ord just for processing from Missoula, Montana. We went on a train all the way down there.
Uh-huh.
And then went up to Fort Lewis, Washington, right near Seattle, and did our basic training. After basic training, we got on the train, went to Chicago, down to Georgia. And the thing I remember about Georgia was I got off the train and I had to get on another one. I said, "Is this the train that goes to Savannah?" And he said, "Yeah." So I started to go on the train, and he said, "Oh, no, sir, it was a black man. He said, "You can't get on that car." I said, "Why not?" He said, "That's for colored folk only."
Oh.
And so I learned about that
Yeah.
at that time. And so I got on the right train and went to Fort Stewart, Georgia. And it was, I remember the town next to it was called Louisville. And the thing that was funny about that was in our church in New Meadows, Methodist Church, a guy came from the south near Savannah.
Uh-huh.
I said, "You ever hear of Louisville?" That was where I lived.
Oh, wow.
Which
Okay.
was amazing to me. But I was there for a while, and then we got our orders to go to the next place. Well, it was called Inawituck, Marshall Islands in the Pacific, where they tested hydrogen bombs.
Mm.
And I was there for 11 months and 17 days. and not that I was counting.
No, doesn't sound like it.
From there, I went to Little Rock, Arkansas, not Little Rock, Fort Smith, Arkansas.
Well, tell them what you did when you were in the islands.
Oh, I was just a baker,
Oh, yeah?
and I was too dumb. What do you want to learn? I'm a baker.
Oh,
You know,
is that because your stepdad was a baker?
Yeah, I'd worked for him in the bakery, and
Yeah.
I knew how to do some stuff.
Yeah.
So then, I was a baker in Inuitak,
Huh.
and
Tell them about the test.
they were testing hydrogen bombs, and they'd give you what they called high-density goggles.
Uh-huh.
And these goggles would protect your eyes from the atomic flash. And so they said, they'd march us out the beach and they'd say, get the goggles on. And so we'd put them on, and you could look right at the sun with those goggles. And put them on, and they, okay, it's okay to take them off. Where's the flash? It was at Bikini Atoll, which was 250 miles up the chain, and we'd been looking that way, and it was over this way. So then, the one I really remember was they did it right, I don't know how many miles from where we were, but in the Army, when they had a shot, they'd count down.
Uh-huh.
And they'd go 10, 9, 8, and the dogs on the island would start whining and try to get away.
Huh.
But I remember we were right by a Quonset hut made of metal, and this dog was whining around there, and the blast went off. We had our backs to it because they didn't want you looking at it. So we did what they told us. And they said, they went to 1, and that shot, it blew there was a metal door on this Quonset hut. It was open and blocked with a rock. It blew it shut. And our backs, you could feel like someone put an iron on your back and
Isn't that
took it
nice?
off.
Wow.
It was hot.
Wow.
And
But just for a second?
just for a temporary.
Just enough to give you cancer, probably.
Yeah.
Well, I was lucky because I didn't get any of that stuff. I met a guy in Alaska who'd been to Inuitak, and he was an officer. His job was to fly a helicopter through the cloud
Oh, God.
as you went up, and he'd go zoop through it, and they'd take samples, and then up 1,000, zoop, and back and forth. And I said, well, did you get cancer? Yeah, I got cancer.
Wow.
I said, well, did you go to a veterans hospital? No, those guys are amateurs. I went to a real doctor.
Oh, yeah. Wow.
But, it's sort of like Agent Orange. They pretend it didn't hurt you.
Oh, wow. Well, that'll show up. What year was this, do you think?
57 to 58. Which was it?
In front of a bridge.
You said it was in California, some park or something? You told me it, but I didn't remember.
Well, I don't-
Now
Out
that's,
of
that,
that.
you've gotta read that, cause that's hilarious.
More is pretty Pacific Ocean area.
That was
Real specific, huh?
I was a
Big space, wouldn't you say?
water safety instructor while I was in Inuitak.
So June 58 to December 59, basically.
Yeah.
Huh.
When I saw that, I knew he was really special.
Yeah.
A lifeguard and a water instructor for the whole Pacific area.
Yeah, that was a big pool.
Okay, so was there cancer in your family from radiation?
No, actually, I told Marla I had 3 times in my life I was in danger, and one was in Osborne, Idaho, during World War II, at Hanford, Washington. They were dumping, radioactive smoke all over the place,
Yeah.
and went into Idaho,
Yeah, a
Montana.
lot of friends who died.
Yeah.
And
Well, his
then-
mother died of cancer, and so did her.
well, they smoked.
Well, they did, but that
Yeah.
might not have been the whole cause.
But anyway, that was one, and then number two was when after I got out, I flunked out of Missoula. I went to the Zone Light mine, and I've got a picture of a Euclid truck I drove,
Huh.
and they'd dump this stuff. And the first day I got there, I wasn't driving a truck, I was sweeping. That's where you start.
Yeah.
I was sweeping this room, and I saw they had paper masks, so I put it on. And then I met this other guy. He said, "Don't you wear a paper?" "Nah, it doesn't bother me." And
Wow.
a lot of people died in Libya
That was a
from
Wow.
super fun sight.
vermiculite, which is an asbestos type.
You played in
Oh.
a football field with.
Yeah, the football field, they covered with it to make the grass grow better.
Oh.
And right next to where we lived,
Asbestos.
a block, they had a storage sheds for this vermiculite. It's like mica.
It's a real lightweight
It
type of
is.
flaky stuff.
Then
right?
It was used
they
for
cook it
insulation.
in a big
Yeah.
drum, probably half the size of this room, and it's rolling all the time. And it goes in, and by the time it gets to the other end, they have baffles to make it that way. Then by the time it gets to the other end, it goes into like a popcorn
Which they use for insulation.
thing out of that little tiny mica thing.
Oh.
So that was where I started. Then I saw they had a bid the second day I was there. They had a bid Euclid driver, and that was more money. So I said, I'd like to do that. And he said, well, have you ever? Yeah, I have some experience. And I got in this Euclid, it was in the garage, and I wonder how you back it up. And I looked, and it said R. Well, that's how you back it out. So I backed out of that and went up to the top of the mountain, and they had it all leveled off where and I've got a picture of the not steam shovel, but a loader that loaded the trucks.
Uh-huh.
And when they got you loaded, sometimes your truck would really bounce. Well, they had these biotite, they called it. And they were about 4 times the size of your chair. They'd just dump them on top of the truck, and they'd go like this. Well, you drove out to the edge of the hill, and you backed toward the edge by yourself. Nobody, there was a guy with a shovel there, but he'd sort of direct you. And I stepped on the air, and it stopped, and I pulled the lever, and the stuff dumped out, and I watched it go down the hill, and I got out of the truck, watched it go out of the hill, down the hill, and it would hit like a pine tree, this big, snap. It
No
just
kidding.
knock them off.
Wow.
And this guy that was there with the shovel, he said, "You need to pull your emergency brake." He said, "Sometimes the air doesn't work."
Oh, great.
So I got an education.
So was that like mine tailings that you were hauling? It wasn't the
No,
vermiculite
it
itself?
was just when they were digging the vermiculite up, if they were in the pure vermiculite, they were just dumping it in your and then they'd go that way, and you'd back toward what they called a grizzly. There was a bunch of metal bars, and the big rocks would be on top of it, and they'd roll down and go to a dump, another dump. So, but that was fun.
It sounds like it. Okay, so I've got several notes here. One of them is that you were in Japan for 2 or 3 months.
Okay, well, I had to go find Marla.
Oh.
And so a friend of mine when I went to Cheney was named Kingo Shirishi, and he was from Tokyo. And one time, I wasn't rich, but I had $100. He said, I wanted to go to that thing somewhere back east. It was some kind of a show, and he was a Japanese serious student.
And this is while you were in college at Cheney?
Yeah, at college at
Okay.
Cheney.
Uh-huh.
And so I gave him $100 to go, and he said after World War II, he said it was a lot different there, so you should come over and see it. So in 1964, 5, I went to Japan from Boise to Hawaii to Japan, and that was my third time in Japan, Hawaii, because I'd been there in the Army. When I went to Inuitak, we flew to Hawaii, and then went to Inuitak. I've been to Hawaii 3 times and never on the ground.
Oh, yeah?
Well, you were on the ground in the plane.
In the plane.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Wow.
But, so I went there, and then I stayed in Japan for a year, and or not a year, part of a
Couple
year.
months, 2 or 3 months, I
Yeah,
think?
2 or 3 months.
Yeah.
And when I was there, he'd tell me where to go, like he'd say, go to Nikko. And that was a place where they had a temple covered with gold. And then go to Hiroshima. I went there. And I went to Shikoku Island, which is one of the islands around Japan. And that's where Kingo was born. And he had family there, so I stayed with them a day or two. And that's a place I remember in Japan. We're riding this train. I went on a bullet train earlier, but a local train. And this guy was sitting over there, and he was looking at me, and he said something in Japanese, and I could tell he didn't like me. He was in a soldier's uniform from World War II.
Oh, was he an older guy?
Yeah, he was a little older than I was.
Speaking of that, you said you visited Hiroshima?
Yeah, I went there and
What did you see there?
well, I went to the museum.
Was everything pretty, the main part of town, aside from the museum area, was it pretty well restored by
Yeah,
then?
it was restored.
Yeah.
But at the museum, I wanted to see it, so I went, and I had a young friend I met in Tokyo. He wanted to learn English. And so we'd meet in a coffee house, and we'd talk, and he learned some English. And so he went with me down to Osaka. And then after that, well, that was an interesting night. We went to Osaka and didn't have a motel, and I had $200 and some to visit Japan, so I didn't have a lot of money. So I said, he spoke in Japanese. He said, this man is trying to see Japan, and could we stay here tonight? So he and I slept in a house of prostitution overnight, and then he went back to Tokyo, and I went to Hiroshima. And when I got to Hiroshima, this kid had made a little notebook about this size, and it would say, how much is a room?
Oh.
And so all I had to do was written in English, and then it was written in Japanese, and I'd point to it. Well, at that museum, I pointed to it, and this guy looked at me and he said, I've seen everything now, perfect English. And so I stayed there. I stayed in youth hostels because they were the cheapest. And I was over 27, or 29. No. Yeah, I was about 27. But I got to see a lot of Japan that way.
Cool. So let's move on to when you were coming back from Japan. You switched flights or something?
I saw, I'd been to Hawaii 3 times, and I thought, I can go to Alaska, round trip ticket, just the same as I came here. So I changed my destination, went to Anchorage,
Nothing wrong with trees.
and in Anchorage, I had $20. So I bought a hamburger, and that was $3. And I slept out in the swamp because I didn't have money for a motel. And boy, it was a mosquito way that.
So you went to Alaska just on a whim because you just wanted the adventure?
Well,
or
I
what?
had applied for a job in
Oh.
Juneau.
Oh,
I applied 20 places or so, or 15. But anyway, I've been accepted, and I was gonna be a teacher in Juneau.
oh.
So that's what I did.
What month was that when you got there?
I think about May,
Oh, yeah.
and I slept overnight in the swamp, and then got on the plane the next day and went to Juneau. But before, I thought, I want to see what Anchorage looks like. So it was 8 miles to town, and I walked into town. And I'd been walking all the time in Japan, and I walked into town and saw this big copper ignet, a big
Nugget?
nugget. It was like a
Gold
nugget,
nugget?
but it was as big as that couch. I thought that was pretty impressive.
Yeah.
And then I walked back to the airport and slept.
And how far was it?
8 miles.
I thought that's what.
Well, I've been walking in everywhere in Japan
Yeah.
to see stuff. And so I was fair shape and young. And when I got to Juneau, I went to the employment office. And I said, do you have any jobs? And she said, yeah, we have one, but no one wants it. I said, I'll take it.
You didn't know what it
I
was?
didn't know what it was. So it was what they called stream guard.
Uh-huh.
And what you did was they flew you someplace, to a place that was illegal to fish, and you had a canvas kayak, fold boat they call it, was the name of it, and you'd open it up and get it set up so you could go out. If a fishing boat came and was going to fish illegally, you just row out to it in this kayak and arrest them. Well, that year in Southeastern, I arrested the only boat that the Fish and Game guys arrested. And it wasn't the first place I was. I'd been at 3 or 4 other. I remember one place, Glacier Bay National Park.
Uh-huh.
Right across from it is Idaho Inlet.
Really?
And we were stationed there and on a rock and a few little trees. And it was probably 200 yards long and probably 50 yards wide. And they put us on that and said, don't leave this island. And we had food, but it was all dehydrated food. So as soon as they got out of sight, I got in that kayak and went over to the freshwater stream and got some water. And we were there about a week, and then there were 2 of us. My partner got an infection in his knee, so I took the kayak up to the end of the bay, and there was a fishing boat there. And I asked the lady, would you call Juneau and tell him that my friend has an infection? Well, tell him I think it's a... No, you don't tell him that. You tell him he has an infection. So they came and picked him up, took him back, and then they came and picked me up eventually. So,
Tell them about the arrest.
oh, the rest on down toward Wrangell, Alaska. I don't know if it's Prince of Wales Island, but there was an island there, and right around the peak or the northern tip of the island, there's a little entrance into a lake, bay, and it's called Hole in the Wall. And so we were put on that. They put us ashore. We had 1 rifle and 1 bullet, 30-06.
Sounds like it. Andy Griffith was.
It was a really prepared outfit. So we were there for a while, and it was really interesting. That's the first place I ever heard a wolf howl in the
Wow.
wild. And also, I was looking down off this rock, and here's something. It's an octopus that went across different rocks, and it would change colors as it crossed the rocks. So that was the adventure I liked. And then we heard a noise, and here comes a fishing boat. Closed area, I knew it. So he'd set his seine, and he'd caught some fish. So I rode out in my kayak, and thank God he was a nice guy, because he could have said, yeah, hop aboard, I'll take you to Wrangell. And then got out 2 miles and thrown me in the bay, and that would have been it.
Yeah. And
So-
you were all alone in the kayak when you went
Yeah,
out?
I was alone, and I was alone on the boat too.
Yeah.
So when we got to Wrangell, the guy, I don't know, I'd called him, or I didn't call him because we didn't have a radio. I just called him when we got to Wrangell, and they took the skipper and took him to court. And I told you I had a job in Juneau that fall.
Yeah.
$7,000 I was going to get for a year. I taught here for 3.
Oh, yeah.
And so this guy, the judge said, you're pleading guilty. Yes. He said, you'll have to pay the fine before I can let you go. Okay. So he said, the judge said the fine is $7,000.
Ooh.
And so I thought, $7,000? He said, when can you pay it? And the guy was real tall and skinny, and I watched his Adam's apple, it popped up and down, tomorrow. That was my introduction to fishing.
Yeah, wow.
And so he was a heck of a nice guy, thank God.
Yeah, wow. $7,000. So what did you finally go to that job you had in Juneau?
Yeah, I went to the job.
And what job was that?
Well, it was across from Juneau. There's a straight through there. Do you remember?
The Gastineau Channel.
Gastineau
Channel.
Channel. Yeah.
Between
and there's a
Juneau, the borough, and over to Douglas.
Douglas is they go across the bridge, and that town was a Treadwell mine, and it was the richest mine they'd found at that time.
What were they mining?
They were mining gold.
Oh.
And so I went to there, and I had a friend's pickup with a camper on it. So I was sleeping in the camper, and then I'd go to the school to go to the lavatory and shave and stuff like that. And I taught there 1 year, and then they transferred me over to Juneau. But I really enjoyed it.
Was this after or before you taught here at Meadows?
After.
Okay.
See, in 1964-5, I left and went to all this, Tokyo and all that.
Uh-huh.
Well,
And-
did you go to Lewiston after you were taught there?
Well,
before?
that was when I worked up the Snake River, yeah.
No.
So you're teaching at Juneau,
Right,
and then that led to meeting Marla?
right. That's why it was a $5,800 mile trip to get her. And it was worth it.
Explain that.
Well, because my ticket to Tokyo and then up to Juneau, it was 5,800 miles.
Oh, I see.
So,
Well, you worked 2 years before he met me.
In Juneau, too?
Yeah.
Yeah.
she was in the same school I was in. She was going to be a health teacher the next year, but they didn't have an opening the first year.
It was an agreement that I would take the job. I wanted the teaching job, but they needed a school nurse, and I said, sure, I can do that. I've done plenty of that kind of work.
And that was the school where he was teaching,
Yes. so
right?
Same
that's-
school.
That's how I got to meet him.
Yeah, so you got to know each other while you were teaching at the.
Right. We went to, they had get-togethers, and we'd met a couple, 3 times before we got a little serious.
Yeah. So what year were you married?
1968, March 14th,
Was that up there or somewhere else?
up there
Yeah.
at Juneau, and there was a place called Auk Bay Church. And
Yeah.
We,
Chapel by
we were married
the
there.
lake, it was called, and you had a view of the Mendenhall Glacier as you looked out the window at the front of the
So
church.
did neither of you have any family there, or just
No.
some friends or whatever?
No.
We just met.
I was from Ohio.
Yeah.
She took a month to come to Juneau by car and ship.
Wow.
Alaska Ferry, wasn't it? Her mother, she and her mother did that traveling.
So did you continue to teach there, or did?
I taught that year, 68, and
I
she
did too.
worked in the same school building, 68.
Uh-huh. And then where did you go from there and when?
Well, being a homing pigeon, I came back to New Meadows.
Uh-huh.
And so
What year was that?
that was 1960. Oh, I
68.
did a little something. I got a master's degree
Oh.
that year at the
We lived
University
in
of Idaho.
Moscow.
Oh.
And we had a wonderful situation there. We got there in September
At Moscow.
at Moscow.
We came
And-
down the Alaska Highway in a yellow Volkswagen convertible.
Oh.
And when we went to the student housing, they said, "You have to apply a year early, dummy." And she said, "But we do know a lady who lives up on Walenta Drive, and she needs some people and has an apartment available."
A couple
Mhm.
have to be
He was this
dean,
dean of,
arts and science, I think it was.
yeah.
Mhm.
And so we lived with them, Dean Martin and his wife Grace, for 1 year. And then at the end of that, I got my degree and,
This was your master's?
yeah, my master.
In education?
So then I came to New Meadows to teach,
English.
and with a master's, I got $7,000.
Oh.
The same,
No benefits
Oh, yeah.
those days.
yeah, we had to negotiate for benefits, but
So what year was it you came back to live in Meadows Valley?
69.
And where did you live? You weren't here at this house?
No,
were you?
my Aunt Bertha Armacost lived in New Meadows. And she said, "I'm not gonna be here most times." She'd just been divorced after 39 years of marriage. And she said, "I'm not gonna be here, and you're welcome to stay here." And
Just pay the utilities is all she had
Yeah.
to do.
Who was her husband?
Bailey Armacost,
Bailey
he used to be a commissioner
Hmm.
or
The
something.
Armacosts were from down council.
Was that Dick's brother?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Okay.
Mhm.
yeah, it would have been.
Okay.
Well,
Yeah.
no, Vic was not his
Oh,
father.
Vic was his.
Dick's.
Vic was the son, and Bailey was the father.
Oh.
And I think he was a brother to the guy that's down
An
there.
Armacost Council. So
Yeah,
Okay. So,
rancher.
so how many years did you teach here at Meadows?
28.
Yeah.
One before I went to Alaska, and then 23. I was there 3 years,
Uh-huh.
and then I taught here.
So when you came back here, what was the situation with the Krigbaum place here? Who was
Well,
living in the house, and what was this property like? And
At the time, the cabins were here,
yeah.
and
He had-
Marla always wondered when I took her out in Alaska, I'd always take her to Chinese, and it was $10 for 2 people to eat dinner
Once a month.
once a month.
Uh-huh.
And she said, "What's they doing with all this money?" what, he's sort of cheap. And
Because we hiked all over Alaska.
Yeah.
yeah,
Hiked.
that was fun because that was cheap.
Yeah.
And I was paying for this land
He bought
from
this
my
campground
uncle,
with
Phil Wood.
Phil.
And then I was paying for a house in New Meadows that they'd brought from Stibnite on a truck.
Mhm.
And so that was a
And
pretty
a car. You were paying on your car too.
paying on a
Oh,
car.
and he was a fireman
Wow.
in Juneau.
He
Or
was?
Douglas, he was a fireman.
Yeah,
Oh.
He lived
after
at the
that,
fire hall.
In
I'd
Douglas,
lived in
Alaska.
the
Yeah.
camper truck.
Uh-huh.
They let me live in the fire hall, and she paid
50.
50 a month. I paid $15. But all I had was a room about as wide as, just for a bed and your boots and your fire outfit,
Yeah.
and no closets,
Oh.
just a hanger.
So when you came back here to live, right at first, like I was saying, who was living in the main?
I think Edlow,
Yeah, I think Edlow, Edlow had died when that first year we knew each other. I remember he died.
okay.
And so Corky moved in there. Corky
And
moved in there.
Edlow's wife was Nellie.
She lived there too.
She lived there too with Corky and Beverly and 3 kids.
3 kids,
Uh,
boy
Kip.
and 2 girls.
How long was that house in the Krigbaum family?
It was a long time because when was the centennial year for
1906.
Idaho?
That's
Yeah.
when it was built, 1906,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And Ross and Annie built that?
Right.
Had it
Uh-huh.
built?
Yeah.
Right, and he lived till 1922.
Uh-huh.
Then he died of the Spanish influenza,
Oh, really?
and
In 1922?
yeah.
Wow.
See, it was 4 years after the big 1918 was the height of it.
Right.
And then she and Phil and Zora lived there, and they all had passed away. And when we came, Corky had moved into the house.
Well,
He had lived in that little log house up there, and then he came down here to live in the house.
Oh.
His dad had died that year, I think in '67, the year I came to Alaska, and he had died because I remember.
Now, when you say he lived in the cabin, were you
Yeah,
talking about
he-
the old original Ross Krigbaum cabin?
no,
No,
One of these
one of the 8
Eight.
cabins
Oh,
here.
okay.
yeah, he
Yeah.
never really, well, and then did he live over down Rainy Lane?
Well, in the Depression, he was given a piece of land before the Depression, and then during that time, I think he couldn't pay the taxes and it was taken over by the county.
And who was that you're talking
Edlow.
Edlow.
Edlow. Okay.
That was
the
the oldest son. He was,
Yeah. All the children all of Annie's children had died, and he was the last to die,
Oh.
and so I think he may have moved into the house, he and Nellie, but then he left Nellie as a widow, and then Corky, her
Uh-huh.
son.
And then you
moved in.
say Phil Wood, and who did Phil marry?
Zora.
Zora.
Zora, okay.
He's the
That
one
was one
who-
of Ross's oldest daughter, right?
Yeah.
Yes, and he, Phil, Morris looked to him as he was lucky, he had a really good father figure in Phil, he was a wonderful man, and everybody loved him, but they didn't like Edlow. People in the town, when I came here, they didn't like him,
Really?
because he didn't treat his mother or his wife too well, is what I heard from all the ladies that gathered around me.
So,
From Old
when
Meadows.
did you first come to Meadows Valley?
I-
After you were married?
After we married. I'd never been to Idaho, actually.
Uh-huh.
And when we came down from Moscow, and then we came here to live, was in 1960, that spring of '69. We went to Alaska, and then we.
Well, did you go back and forth between Alaska and here for a while?
Yeah, 37 years.
Oh, I see.
You know,
Huh.
he had bought it. Well, he missed that thread.
In,
He did so many things; it's kind of hard to keep track.
Yeah.
But
up in Juneau, I taught at Douglas, and there was a friend I made named Bob Slider, and he fished commercially on Kodiak Island.
Uh-huh.
So he told me He said, there's a site available in Olka Bay, Kodiak Island.
Kodiak Island.
So I wrote to the guy and I said, I'd like to fish it on shares. That's what they did at that time. The owner got 60% and the guy that did the work got 40. So he said, nah. He said, I had a school teacher last year and right at the height of the run, he went up taking pictures on the hill. And so he didn't want to do it on share. So I said, well, what would you sell it? And he said, well, I want $4,100 for it.
For the boat?
For the house.
Oh, the house.
An old cabin,
Oh.
a plank boat, and a old little 2 or 3 other crappy boats. And that's what we started out with, Marla and I.
Uh-huh.
And I'd never fished anywhere commercially,
Yeah.
so, but I did know how to run outboard almost.
Huh.
And so the first year I was there by myself, I was coming in this plank boat to the tender. It was a barge of, what do you think, John, 60 feet long
Yeah.
and 30 feet wide.
Oh.
Well, they came to pick up our fish. So the first time I ever approached the boat, I just headed right straight for it, and I was gonna start my motor and go in reverse, but it didn't work, and I turned around and I said, prepare to be rammed. And
This was
so-
our first this is where we went to live, our first cabin.
Oh.
Isn't it beautiful?
Who painted that?
I did.
Oh, cool.
And this is
And
what
was that on Kodiak?
Yeah, and
Yeah,
that's
Olga
what we
Bay.
saw from our cabin.
Oh, that's the view from your cabin.
No.
Huh.
Yeah. So
Okay.
then, I guess we came back. Then we went to graduate school, and he came here to Meadows Valley.
And I had fun.
Corky and his family with his 3 kids lived there. And he is a first cousin. 'Cause-
Was that after Phil Wood was living
Well,
there?
Phil
Phil
was-
never owned it.
No.
But he was living there?
When-
He
but
worked
he
there
worked
for-
there from 22 to
60,
69.
68
Yeah.
or 9.
Yeah.
Then
And
Corky-
his wife, Zora, died at age 60.
And
So-
Ed kicked him out.
They just kicked him out, and he came over here. He inherited the campground,
Oh.
and he was sleeping in one of the rooms, and he
He wasn't eating right.
hadn't eaten right, and so he's
He's
getting
depressed.
sort of weird. And I took him up to the hospital in McCall, and they said he has a mental illness,
Yeah,
and he
he-
needs to be
He's
hospitalized. So they took him to
Phil
Orfina.
worked there?
Phil Woods.
Yeah, he was very depressed because his whole life evaporated.
Yeah, he'd done all
And
the
Grandma-
work, and then he got booted.
And he lived with Grandma until she died, and he loved both those women. And I never knew him, but I love him even though I don't, because he did such a good job of raising and running the ranch and everything, and he just kicked out.
And who was it that kicked him out?
Edlo.
Edlo.
Oh, okay. And he actually owned the
He was
house.
kind of a pill.
Ah.
And kind of greedy. He hadn't really been too successful at what he did, but at any rate, that was a story that was shared by the Goodwill ladies who
Yeah.
embraced me when I came here, because I just lost my mother when I was pregnant with John.
Oh.
And so they just, the Valley people were just wonderful to Morris, when we first came here.
Now, Edlo was your uncle, right?
Yes,
Uncle by-
that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay, so what happened after Phil got kicked out? Who lived there?
Edlo
Oh, Edlo's.
lived
Yeah.
there, and he just told him, "You need to leave."
And he died in '68. I know because it was when we were married. We were married in '68, and it was starting that school year that I remember you got a letter that he had passed
Who,
away.
Edlo?
Yeah, Edlo did.
Uh-huh.
He was alone. Well, he and Nellie lived in there.
Mhm.
And then Corky, their son, and Nellie's and Edlo's son, moved in there he was the oldest, No, I guess his sister was the oldest.
Yeah, Norma.
Norma. But she
Okay.
lived in California.
And then what was the ownership after Corky had it?
Then Sherry and Nathan, their daughter, Corky and Beverly's daughter, Sherry lived in it for a short time to look after Corky. Then Corky died, and then the house was inhabited then by
Nathan.
who is Sherry and Eugene's son. And so consequently, then they moved out of there and went on their own. And that was when the two girls, because their brother, Kip, had worked for Columbia Helicopter, and he was a helicopter mechanic, and he was killed in a very terrible Columbia helicopter crash. And that was in 2000. Yeah, because Claire and Jason worked for us, and that was the first year. That was the year they first were married, and they came to Alaska, and the family worked together. And when we came back, and so Eugene's son, Nathan, and his girlfriend and a little boy, that's another story. He now is at Brown University, got a full scholarship. Anyway, then the girls decided to sell the property, and that must have been sold.
Because Pam didn't live here.
She didn't live here, and Sherry didn't. She tried, they tried, but it was too hard for them to irrigate and to do that. She has rheumatoid arthritis.
And I think Gene was working over in Oregon.
Yeah, he was. He's a welder.
So what year was it that it actually was sold outside the
It's
family?
about 5 years ago.
Oh.
Yeah, 5 years. It was sold to Jess and Tammy Chapman. He's a contractor. He builds passive houses. He has a very successful business. And they just actually restored the house because there were a lot of things that need to be done to it. It should be on the historical register because
Yeah.
it's never changed. But Corky never wanted to do that. Now, I don't know whether the Chapmans would or not, but anyway, he built that shop there. He builds $1 million houses. And he's a fine person, and they just really did wonderful things for the house. They didn't change the footprint of it at all inside. It's just beautiful. I think it looks like maybe it did when the grandma and the grandpa first
Yeah.
moved into it. It looks
Cool.
that good.
Okay, so let's go way back to the Osbornes. Some of the earliest Osbornes lived on the East Coast, right?
Right.
Where exactly? And they were in whaling business? And
They were, Martha's Vineyard was where they had their,
Edgerton. Edgartown.
yeah. And we went back there in '86, and my cousin took us around, and she showed us this house, and she said, "Your great-grandfather was born in that room." She was a historian. And so this house, I think, sold for $13 million.
Yeah, the one across the street, which wasn't as nice. It was a 2-story with a widow's walk on the top.
this was an Osborne that owned it?
Yeah, the
they did
great-great-grandfather, the
well.
great-great-grandfather and his wife.
Yeah.
I'll get
One of the
pictures of them.
Osbornes was, he was in, where was that? The saltwater crocodile?
Yeah.
He was a captain, and he fell overboard or was pushed, and a saltwater crocodile ate him.
Oh boy.
That was the 4th great-great-great-great.
Oh.
But these are the great-great-grandparents. Those are painted portraits.
Oh. Uh-huh. And these are Osbornes?
Yes.
Yes.
Uh-huh. So let's spend a little more time
There's
on William
information on
Osborne.
that.
What was
Okay.
his story? He was from
Yeah, when he was 21, he got on a ship called the Splendid,
The family
and
whaling vessel.
he came around the Horn on the Osborne thing and got off at San Francisco.
He had a brother, James, with him.
Yeah, and a cousin.
Tim.
Yeah, and so he got off the ship and they started mining And they worked, what, a year or so?
Yeah, I guess a couple of years. In 1849, you know, it
Oh.
whittled down. They came for the gold rush.
Mhm.
Lots of it. I guess a lot of people on Martha's Vineyard. It was the beginning of when whaling was. It was good, but it was
Wasn't what it once was.
no, it once was. And so they had 5 sons. So the 2 of them, the oldest one, of course, inherited what that guy Samuel had rendered.
Yeah.
He was a I don't know that he did whales, but he owned ship fleet. He was more of a merchant.
Yeah, so you were
vessel.
telling me a while ago that they were a very big whaling company, one
They
of the
were,
biggest or something?
especially when the son, William's brother, Samuel Jr., took over the whaling business. Then that changed because he had a vision further than what his father had, and they had been there for 3. They came there. Well, his family came on the Mayflower.
Right.
Both
yeah.
sides of the family came on the Mayflower.
Now when you say both sides,
Well, the Pisas and the from the mother's line and from the father's line.
those are the pictures we just saw
Yes,
from those 2
uh-huh.
lines?
And those are portraits, painted portraits.
So what remains in Martha's Vineyard today? You said there's a house there that...
The house that Morris's great-great-grandfather owned, and also where William was born, that came to Idaho.
And that was at Martha's Vineyard?
Yes,
Okay.
in Edgartown.
Is there, is that well-known history there at Martha's Vineyard?
Very much. There's
Yeah.
a wharf there, Osborne Wharf.
And
Lots of houses from
Library.
off the offspring who stayed there and did the whaling.
Are there still
Charlotte.
Osbornes that live there?
Yes, there
Oh.
are. Most of them have skirted off around. Of course,
Uh-huh.
Tim's Ward, Timothy Coffin Ward, that was the family name of the Coffins, came from the mother, the great-grandmother. And I don't want to get mixed up on this. He should know it as well as I do, but we have to share it because it's so involved. But
Yeah.
at any rate, they came to Martha's Vineyard in the 1600s. And before that, they had come from the Boston area, or that area of Massachusetts. And I don't remember how many children they had. They had one boy that was disabled, and then there was William and James, and then there was, I have a list of all of them, but the oldest one was named after the father, and he inherited the business of the whaling and the merchant.
Uh-huh.
And he built that to be one of the largest in the world.
Wow.
In fact, there's still a suit with the Portuguese, I guess, where one was stolen. The first ship to be taken in the Civil War was from their fleet of ships.
Huh. What do you
They're
mean
in Martha's
taken?
Vineyard. They were running coal as well as making these trips. Now, the Splendid ship left the port for the gold rush. It was full of men who were going to the gold rush from Martha's Vineyard. And they came around, as Morris said, up to the 1849 gold rush. And James was killed in one of the mining areas. We don't know how he was, but William survived. And so when that all petered out, he went up, and we don't know whether, we think maybe he went inland to go to the gold rush that was happening in Idaho. You know, there was a gold rush there next. Right. And so a lot of people from the gold rush in California came up there. And William was one of them.
Do you know where he went at first?
He went to Warren.
Oh. Uh-huh. And
he settled in Warren and had a claim, and he also built a dairy herd. And he sold milk and cream to. That's where he met the character you're going to talk to
Elizabeth,
in your presentation.
Uh-huh.
She did the same thing. Well, she left Germany just about the same time. Her sister married a man who went to the gold rush from Germany. They came from Germany, and they settled in this, I guess, in Sacramento area or where
San
that gold-
Francisco,
in San Francisco,
Mhm.
because they didn't mine gold.
they sold
They
equipment.
sold shovels and got very wealthy.
Yeah,
And so they took their money, and the girls came to there. The
right.
two girls, the two sisters that had left Germany.
She was 18 at that time.
Yeah, she
They-
wasn't 16, she's 18. And the sister was 16.
Uh-huh.
And they left because it's family lore is the fact, or maybe the grandmother told them, or the great grandmother told them that her mother had died. Their mother had died, and the father had remarried, and they had a cross stepmother that they just couldn't get along with, the two
Mhm.
girls. And they were at the age that they could leave, so. And economically, I think Europe was having trouble at that time too, maybe, I don't know, but anyway,
I think there was some political
there
stuff
was
going
some
on.
political,
Yeah.
discourse if you get really deep into history, so they left and they came to
Boston,
Boston
but
and
an open
an
boat.
open ship of some kind. And there was some stories drifted how difficult that was, because it was a long, maybe a month or
I
2
think they
months.
said 49 days.
Yeah, I
like
think
that.
that's right, it seemed like.
Then they must have not stayed there very long. They must have gone
They
around
did
the horn
not.
almost immediately.
They were going to the sisters in San Francisco, to the couple that
It took them
left.
6 months to get
Yeah.
around
And-
the
I'll bet, yeah.
north and
And I
south.
think they did domestic work while they were living with the couple, but then they decided they wanted to go back to Germany. But the two girls didn't
You're
want to
talking
go
about
back.
Mary, the
Yeah,
sister,
the
older
sister.
sister that lived there.
Yeah, Elizabeth, and the oldest sister who left, and with her husband, and returned to Germany. And I don't know if she ever communicated with them or not. But the interesting thing parallel to that is that William's mother and father were still living, of course, when he went around, and we have letters that were exchanged in that time frame with the great great grandmother and her daughter Caroline, who was a sister to William,
Hmm.
who went around to the goldfield. And I mean, you probably would just gobble that up because it's just so interesting, talking about the whaling industry and how her husband died, the great-great-grandfather died, and the mother is writing to Caroline, who married a very wealthy shipping magnate from Britain.
Hmm.
And she moves to Britain, and the mother in Martha's Vineyard is trying to survive, while this daughter is worrying about what she's going to buy next in Paris. And she's traveling all over, and all these letters tell about going to Switzerland, to Italy, all over. And she does come back occasionally, but this is all taking place while all this son who leaves to go to, or sons that go to back, and losing one, and then William. And we think he maybe went inland, whereas we believe that Elizabeth may have gone up to maybe somewhere where the Columbia River would
Right,
come
yeah.
in. And I think that's the way most of them did. If I remember reading that when we did the centennial
That
exhibit.
write-up that one of the relatives did
Yes.
says she went to Portland and then up to Lewiston,
Yeah.
and from there to Warren.
So it sounds like they came maybe on some kind of a boat or something
Yeah,
on
they
the
probably would
Columbia.
have.
to the
They rode horses from Lewiston to Warren.
They
And
never
they'd
been
never
on
ridden
board.
horses before.
They never
Yeah,
ridden a
I
horse.
read about that. That's,
But it's an interesting thing because they did correspond. Grandmother Krigbaum correspond with Martha's Vineyard. There's a strong connection from the Osborne children there. We have silver teaspoons from the Osbornes who sent that to Annie when she got married. That William connection was still, Elizabeth was a wonderful person, I think, because she allowed those girls to have their heritage that they had with her first husband, and yet nurtured the Clay girls too. And they were very close. The Clay girls were very close to Annie and Carolyn. especially Annie, who didn't live too far away from him.
Uh-huh.
Caroline, it was a little more difficult, and plus her husband's rise to, being so prominent in the valley and giving people jobs and all
And that
that
was
sort of
Charles
thing.
Campbell, right?
Yeah, Carolyn was quite busy.
Yeah. They had a lot of kids right after they got married.
Yes, they did. So it just, the family dynamic is pretty interesting. But
Yeah.
Elizabeth, she was quite a woman, really.
Yeah.
And I wonder if she was educated because she learned to read the newspaper. She learned
Yeah, I
English.
said that. I forget whether it was Warren or after they got to the Salmon River where she learned to read
Yeah.
English.
Yeah.
Um,
And I've wondered because of her, she was raised, I don't know, I suppose in genealogy could go back to Germany to see how those children grew up, but she was very strong-willed and very little and capable.
do you think she really weighed 85 pounds?
Well, she wasn't very big. She was
mean-
short, and the girls were too. Their daughters were little.
Well, that one picture, I think she weighed more than 85, but
Well,
that
she
was
bore
an older
children.
woman.
Well, she had 8
Yeah.
children, so she
Yeah.
obviously got heavy when she was pregnant.
85 pounds? That's like a 12-year-old.
Well, and I don't know where that, I think there were some stories that seemed a little bit out of sync. But she was tiny because when I knew Minnie, I saw pictures of Lizzie and they were little. And their granddaughters are little too. Carmen was small, Diane was a little trunkier. But they were thin little diminutive girls because Morris took me to meet Minnie Dryden and she was the Clay. She was little.
Yeah.
She was little and pretty.
Well, let's, okay, so William Osborne came to Warren and Elizabeth wound up there too, and they got married and had 4 children.
Right.
And then I think it was after that, they went to the Salmon River.
Right.
Mhm.
They went
Right.
by horseback and they had 2 kids in pack boxes on either side.
You probably-
And then they carried one, I think,
Annie,
Annie.
baby.
She was
Uh-huh.
3 or so.
Edward was the youngest, wasn't he?
Right.
Annie was the second youngest.
And William was, we have his New Testament,
The Bible, we have.
Uh-huh.
and it,
You
He-
talking about senior or junior?
Junior.
Junior.
Okay.
Because Senior, when they took the horses and went to Whitebird from Warren, it was a big trip,
Yeah.
several days.
I-
So when they got there, this side of Whitebird, there was a place they were doing placer mining, and William got along well with the Indians, but
Senior.
his brother-in-law that married the 16-year-old, he was ornery with the Indians. That when they
Oh.
came in, he'd
Mason.
short them, and
Oh, he married Elizabeth's sister? Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
And we believe that she had maybe some little mental problems.
Oh, really? After the massacre?
Well, maybe
yeah.
or before, I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they
I
went
think
down-
it was before. I think they had mental illness.
Yeah, I
And
think
And what
friend-
was her name?
her name was
Was it Annie too? Or
No.
Anyway, we'll figure it out.
What was her name? This slipped right out of my
Was it
bonnet.
Mary?
There's too many
Huh?
names to keep track of.
I don't know. I can't remember. Poor old John. He's developed some allergy from his washing soap.
Oh,
So they got rid of the washing soap.
okay, so anyway, they got the Salmon River, and I guess William Senior made part of his living anyway from panning gold on the Salmon River or
Right.
something.
Mhm.
Probably had a little farming going on or something.
Probably
too.
about
Well,
3
he had
miles
cows.
aside of Whitebird.
And
Right.
he had cows too.
Yeah.
He had been successful at that. And he may have made more
Well, you're,
money from that up in Warren than he did with the.
Well, they've
Although
been-
we read somewhere where he had some guys working for him on his claim
Uh-huh.
up in Warren.
On Warren, yeah,
Mhm.
and that they were selling butter up there, right?
Mhm, they were.
Yeah, so they probably continued doing that on the salmon river.
Oh, I think
a
they
little
did,
bit.
I
Yeah.
think they did,
Huh.
yeah,
And then on June 13th, the Nesbers started killing people.
yeah.
And I don't remember which day it was that William was killed, but boy, that's a horrible story.
Well, I just read a
There's
story,
a
something,
place called French Cemetery. at
you've been there,
Whiteburg.
have you ever
Yeah,
been? Yeah,
I'm gonna show pictures of the grave and
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah. And that
I
was-
just read that there was a place called French Settlement. And
I
maybe
heard
that's
that
what
too.
Whiteburg was before there was a Whiteburg town.
yeah.
Oh, I'm sure.
So maybe that's what that little area was called. and
Well,
that's how
Dan, when you think about it, some of the pictures that came a little later after the ones we know are taken at Warren with that funny little, with like pine cone that have it
Oh,
open up
yeah.
on that, you've seen that chair where there's weddings, there are children. Well, there's a story that we heard from the Osbornes that William had written to his family in Martha's Vineyard that he wanted to have pictures taken at Grangeville of his family to send back there. So I think they must have had some means to be able to do that. And most people didn't do that,
Yeah.
that lived out like that.
Yeah.
And I just think there was some smarts going on there that were
Yeah.
just a little maybe different.
Yeah. Well, let's get back to the timeline here.
Yes.
So after the killings at Whiteburg, I know they went south to Slate Creek and hid out for a while, and then she went up to Warren as a widow with the kids.
You know, they came to get her, I guess. The people from Warren's
Oh,
See,
came
she,
down to get her.
from Slate Creek, they communicated, and so they took her back. And I think she had to get a job, so she was washing
Washing clothes.
clothes.
Mhm.
And they said, "Do you wash clothes of women of ill repute?" And she said, "Yes, they're light and they pay me well."
yeah.
So she was, and I think that at Warren at that time, they met or were helped by Polly Bemis. 'Cause
Yeah.
she sounded like a very caring
Because
person.
Annie must have remembered her. Well, she was very small. She wouldn't have, but there was some kind of a connection there that must have kept, because their mother, Elizabeth, had been a friend of Polly Bemis's in those early days when the mining was going on, because they both lived there at the same time. Because why would she stop at this house?
Yeah, let's tell that story before we lose it. Now,
Yeah.
about what time frame was that? Was she-
1924.
What's that?
1924.
Okay, and
And
Polly
we
Bemis.
found in the Warren Times, it said that she'd been ill and she went to Boise to see a doctor. And that's when our
And that
picture.
picture had 1924 on it.
Uh-huh. And is that when Ross and Annie were living there?
No, but he died in 22.
Oh,
He had
okay.
died.
But was
Annie
Annie?
was
Krigbaum.
very much
She
alive.
lived there all the,
What year did Annie die? She died
uh,
92 or something like that? No, not
She knows
92.
that somewhere.
No, that's not right. That's backwards.
Anyway, she stopped and you think maybe she spent the night in
yes.
the
Yeah.
house over
See,
there?
that was an early motel.
It was.
Really?
Because we
Yeah.
had people from Caldwell come up and different people
Or
came
they
there.
stayed in these little cabins.
No, I think they stayed in the house.
I think they did too. Well, the reason we know that it was because in the 30s, John was, maybe it was Jason, I went to Iowa, my brother was a city planner and went there, and he said, there's a man that lived down the street from me that I become friendly with. He's an older man, Ross Curtis was his name, and his wife was Jessie, and he said, he stayed at Grandma Krigbaum's to fish. And I went, what? You're kidding me. This is in Ames, Iowa.
Yeah?
And I said, how would that be, Pat? He said, well, they've invited us for lunch because he wants to talk about how much he liked to go to New Meadows.
Okay, well, we're getting kind of off here. We're talking about Polly Bemis.
Yes,
And
but
that was in 1924.
that's why I wanted to put there was nothing to do with Ross Curtis, but in the 30s, after this campground was built, and also before that in the 20s, 1920s, people would stay at her house.
Oh, I see.
And not only that, and he said he had stayed at the house.
Uh-huh.
So apparently you said that they had a hard time after Ross died, and then the Depression, and then in the later years, that they had a hard time holding on to the ranch for taxes and stuff.
Yeah.
There was just, you know,
Especially
Phil
during
and
the Depression.
yeah, and so there was some difficulty there. So I think that was the way of generating more money, was to be kind of a place to go. But they did that in the olden days. People would be passing through and they would invite them to come in. And also the not Seventh-day Adventist, the Church of the Brethren camp was here. And Grandma was of a big heart. That's all I ever heard was what a wonderful person she was, Annie. And she said this pregnant girl that came up to camp up here at this camp.
Well, at that time, the camp was up by this development over here,
Oh.
and they were sleeping on truck beds and
she was
whatever.
pregnant, and she said, "You come over and stay here."
So she stayed the week.
Well,
with
there
my
are
grandma.
5 bedrooms in the house. It's a big house.
Wow.
So I think that's why people became that house. I painted a Christmas card of that centennial year for St. Luke's, and it was chosen, and it sold like Cracker Jacks because everybody that comes through here remembered staying there or passing it, going to university.
I just read that Annie lived till 1963.
63.
That's
My
fairly
year-
recently in my lifetime.
Well, it is for all of us, and she lived to be almost. I think she's almost 90.
90, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, well, let's get back to the timeline that in Warren, she met Tom Clay.
Right about 3 years later.
Yeah.
She may have met him earlier, but they were married and they had the 4 Osborne kids. And then they had one Clay daughter in probably Lizzie, the oldest of the Clay girls. They had her up at Warren, and then they decided, we don't want our kids to be miners. We'd rather have them be farmers or something like that. So they came, I think it took them 3 days to come from Warren's to here. And then they moved into the Packer John cabin, which had been built a few years earlier.
1862.
Yeah, 62, and I think that building, no, it was built 62, you're right. Called Cottonwood House at that
Right.
time.
It was called several things over
Well,
there.
it's all stand of cottonwood back there.
Yeah, they must have built it out of cotton.
They did, and I knew from. Do you remember?
Dick Foster told us that cottonwoods, when you make a cabin out of
That
them,
was Fred Walters. that
Fred
told us.
Walters,
Oh,
they
yeah,
rotted
Dead
right.
from
historian.
center out. And that's why they didn't build them out of cottonwood a lot of times.
Because what?
The cottonwood rot
Oh,
from
yeah.
the center out.
But they
Oh.
built all the early cabins. He said, even in Oregon, were built from cottonwood because they were temporary. But they were linear. They were good, strong, and they would build their cabins, and then they'd get better. Then they'd just leave it; it would rot. But I thought that was interesting. Fred told us that a long time ago when we first started being with the trust and as representatives from this area, but because we'd run into old cabins, like even down to the southeast and around. But he said Oregon did that too, because he taught at the Oregon State.
Oh, well, that's interesting.
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah. So they moved into Packer John cabin.
Yeah, for I
And-
think about 3 years.
Tom continued to carry
They
mail. is
carried
what I-
that, and they had 6 people living in that cabin when he got there.
Yeah.
You know, there's the 2 adults and then 5 children.
Yeah.
So that's probably more than 2.
Well, they were little, and
Yeah.
we did that with this house too. We had a little room for Jason, and he grew up to be almost 6 foot. It kind of didn't work too well.
So, and then I think it was 82 or something, they moved to what was later the Henry Clay place. Where was the Henry Clay place? Where the
Well, it was about a quarter mile over across Goose Creek, and it was down in Meadows. That's where the Thomas Clay and Elizabeth Clay lived there.
And they built a
now,
new
where was that in relation to Cemetery Road?
It's Clay Lane. There's a little bridge right when you're in the
Right off the highway there?
If you look down that road when you get into Meadows, after when
That's
you
a drive.
well, you know where the old post office used to be, maybe.
In Meadows?
Yeah.
No, I don't.
Well, there's a block building before. There's a black house. It's a nice house there.
On
That's-
Cemetery Road?
No, it's before you get to Cemetery Road.
Oh, okay.
As you're going down and you start getting, like you pass the Loyal Campbell Ranch, and
It's right
then
across from
It's right
the
across
house.
the street.
and it's right kind of across, and there's a road that goes down to the right. That's where the Clays live, down in that area, right next to the stream
A
almost.
little bit. There's
Where
places in
Dragons
the
live.
valley.
Now,
Yeah,
did Dick or Larry Clay live in there?
Yeah.
Or later on?
Dick.
did.
Okay, yeah, I know where you're talking about now.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's where Tom and Elizabeth
See,
moved to.
in the 20s, after Thomas Clay, I don't know, it was after he died, she had a real nice house. And
Oh, a
we-
lovely house. We have a
Somewhere we
picture.
have a picture of when Henry Clay got married, and it,
All
we're
the
able to label
Krigbaums and
some of the
Clays are all
people.
together for a wedding.
And
we,
my
it's a beautiful
grandmother was
picture.
there, and her husband, Ross,
Yeah.
and also Caroline Campbell.
I think Elizabeth had died, don't you? Because she's not in the picture.
Yeah, could have. And
Yeah,
Raleigh
and-
Campbell was there.
She died in 1912.
Yeah, that house that she had was a beautiful house, and it
Yeah.
burned.
Oh.
Larry Clay told me that they were going to school over at Meadows, the old school,
Uh-huh.
and they were called home because the house was on fire.
Yeah,
Yeah.
oh, it was a pretty house. Real pretty house.
And I just found in the old newspapers where Tom Clay was found dead in Goose Creek.
Yes.
Larry told me about that too. He said, I said, well, what'd he die? Probably drunk and fell in the water and drowned. That-
I
you
thought
know,
that was a little hard.
I don't know if he was drunk or,
And that was, he died in 1896,
yeah.
pretty early.
Yeah.
And then Elizabeth, and my information is that Elizabeth and the older kids milked cows and sold butter and
Oh,
Probably
yeah.
did.
stuff like that.
Anything to survive.
Yeah.
And then the girls married well.
I think Ross Krigbaum and Thomas Clay knew each other pretty well and had been in some buying or selling something, ranches, I don't
Well,
know.
he did, the Clays did well too. I mean, they couldn't have afforded a house like we're looking at with this porch, with this beautiful work on the porch poles, and I mean, it's just a really pretty house. And everybody's dressed well.
Yeah.
The wedding couple look wonderful, and it's just a wonderful picture.
I think
but
her
don't know
name
what
was
you've done
Katie
with it.
Yeah, you'll have to show me that picture because I don't know. I may have it, but I'm not
You
sure.
might have, it was in that group picture, but for some reason, we just can't find it. And I think you took it out because we identified Raleigh Campbell and Loyal Campbell as young men.
Albert.
Albert, Morris's grandmother's in it, his grandfather, Ross is in it.
And my dad was probably,
Well, he had a drinking problem, Ross did. He had a serious, we found in all the information that we had that he had gone to sanatoriums 3 times.
Really?
And those were expensive.
Huh.
Yeah, but he tried, but he just couldn't get rid of
This
the
was a
habit.
Ross?
yeah, Red
Albie
River
Ross.
was the first one I think he went to, and then he went over to near Portland somewhere.
Yeah, we have, there's even a picture from when he sent a letter, but I don't know if the letter's in there, but.
So Morris, when you were growing up, were you very close to your cousins and any of the other Clays and Osbornes and?
Not the Clays. The only thing I remember about the Clays is we butchered pigs right below the house here. And it was a back barnyard. And I remember my job was stripping the fat off of entrails, you know. And so I thought it was funny. I threw a lung at one of the Clays, I don't remember which one, and don't do that. And so I did it again, and he picked me up and stuck my head in a pile of guts.
Oh,
But I learned that way.
how old were you at that time?
Oh, I was just a little kid.
Yeah.
Probably 7 or 8.
So here's the sanatorium.
It's kind of sad in that he had some struggle.
Albert said if he hadn't had a drinking problem, he would have been one of the most successful guys because, like, he had a Thunder Mountain business, you know, over by Big Creek.
Right.
And he also had the power
Company.
business. I remember a story they told me that when they sold the power plant, Ross, to his partners, he was supposed to get free electricity for life. Well, when that didn't happen, and he didn't live very long either.
He was young.
1911
But
to 22.
You know, he was really entrepreneurial, and he was smart with numbers. And Albert said he was just a gee whiz. He said he had so much ability and with the drinking, and it was during Prohibition and stuff. And I
Well, we have a letter, or not a letter, a newspaper that belonged to the LaFays down at the depot, and it tells about they had a vote in Meadows Valley. Are we going to have alcohol or not? And Krigbaum's, my grandmother and my grandfather, we're going to have it.
Yeah.
And they did.
Yeah, I got the impression just from reading the old newspapers that Ross was quite a mover and shaker.
he
a
was.
pretty
He
ambitious guy.
Well, you know, there's a book. It was published somehow it must have been in the early 1900s that had all the men in it. What was that called, Morris? That book that had all the big movers and shakers in Idaho that
Oh, French.
French is,
Idaho history.
yeah,
Yeah.
something like that. And we have had a friend, well, he's dead now, but we had a friend who was a lawyer that we met through the Martins up at the university, and he did a thing for us, a trust for us. And he told us, my father's in that French's books on history, and Morris says, well, my grandfather's in there too.
Was Ross in there?
Yeah.
Yes, he is.
Oh, I didn't know.
Big
I have a
write-up.
copy somewhere.
I've
Yeah.
got it in digital form on my
Well, do
computer.
you look on
yeah.
there? There's a page on there with his
Oh.
picture.
397, I
And
think.
who was it? Somebody said they'd seen a picture of Ross that we had. You showed it to him. It was a picture of Ross as a young man.
Oh, I
Could
have.
you
Read that
retrieve
one.
that?
Yeah,
And-
I've seen several of them. as a
Yeah,
young
and
man, and one as
somebody's-
an older guy smoking a pipe downtown somewhere.
Well, he said that doesn't look like a farmer to me. And yet he was, you know, he came from Council. His family from Council. He was the oldest boy, and he came up
Now,
here.
who is this you're talking about?
Ross.
Oh,
Albie Ross, and he homesteaded at 17.
This is the picture.
oh.
We have that picture. Or John had
John.
it. John liked it.
And that's Ross?
Yep.
That looks a lot like Corky too.
Yeah, Corky.
Did you see that?
I got it. Yeah, I got it. So what'd you say? He came from Council?
Yeah,
Yeah, his
Ross, he
parents
quit-
are buried in Council.
quit school at age 14 and went to work. And
Oldest.
then he came up here, and he was too young when he got here, 17.
Uh-huh.
He couldn't file a homestead, so he lived in that old cabin for 3 years till he got old enough. Then he filed the homestead,
Oh.
but nobody moved in on him. Which
No, they held it. They actually I just read that, something about holding it. We have some,
So this is his grave at Meadows Cemetery, is it? Meadows Valley?
that's his father's.
Well, that's his father?
Yeah,
In
in
council.
council,
That's
What
council.
You know
cemetery is this?
right by
Council
the,
cemetery.
the sheriff's office, that road between the sheriff's office and the building, you go straight
That's
down.
the Kessler Cemetery. Yeah, that's the Kessler Cemetery.
His wife's buried there too, but no tombstone.
So this is, now, who is, this
James.
is James, was that his father?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Ross's
his father.
Okay, I was gonna ask you who James was.
Yeah, and this is, there are a number of obituaries, but that's the longest one.
Oh, yeah.
That one obituary of Elizabeth Klein Clay, it said, Mrs. Clay is dead.
Yeah,
That was the headline.
I saw that, yeah.
And that's pretty interesting. Said there were 100 teams of horses at the cemetery. They would have
Wow.
stretched around the cemetery road quite a ways.
And that was at the Meadows
Yeah,
Cemetery up
Meadows
here?
Cemetery.
Wow, yeah.
Her tombstone is right next to the road that goes up over the top,
Huh.
called Elizabeth Clay.
So James was Ross's father, and they lived at Council. And did you say it was that family, Ross's parents, that lived next to the McClures?
Yeah, James
Yeah.
Krigbaum lived
Yeah,
right
it says
next.
here that
That's what McClure told me.
Yeah.
Jim
Uh-huh.
McClure.
we
Yeah.
were at a dinner party with, down in Boise, when I was on the Idaho Heritage Trust Board.
Uh-huh.
We weren't wheelers and dealers, but we sure met a lot.
Yeah.
And so anyway, we had dinner, and James McClure and his wife were invited, and he told Morris, you know, your grandparents live beside my parents.
Yeah.
Really? We didn't know that.
Yeah, I know Jim. I don't know how I corresponded with him or something, but
He was a great
he was
guy.
well aware that his family lived at Council.
Oh, yes.
And
Yeah.
yeah, I think they moved right before he was born or something. He wasn't born at Council, but
No.
anyway, yeah,
His family history is interesting, too.
yeah. So when you were, we were talking about when you were growing up, what kind of interaction you had with your cousins, and as far as you must have had a lot of relatives in the valley.
Merritts,
Yeah.
they were my mother's family,
Uh-huh.
and Osborne's. I didn't know, like Albert, he was older, and
Oh,
Ron.
yeah.
But
But you knew Charlotte as a girl.
Charlotte.
Yeah.
Is she still alive?
Yeah, she's
91
She
in
turned
three-
91
3
on
weeks, I think.
today, yeah.
Does she live here in the area?
Yeah,
Yeah.
she lives, we hope to interview her. You want to
Oh,
interview
yeah.
Charlotte, because
Yeah.
she lived in town. She didn't live in the ranch. She lived in town.
Oh, uh-huh.
And
Okay.
she had a sister who was kind of sickly, but she married, and we have a lot of pictures of that. You interacted a lot with the Clay kids. You must have if you got your
Yeah,
head
some,
ducked in
but
the
they were,
guts.
all the guys that I was talking about were 10, 15 years older than I
Yeah.
was, the Clays,
Yeah.
Frank and.
Well, but we knew them as adults. You knew Dick and
Right.
Larry and.
Yeah, Dick and Larry were around until
Mhm, yeah,
fairly recently.
that's right.
Yeah. I was going to ask you, in your interviews with Mickey, you said something about houses that are still standing, some of the older
Mm-hmm.
houses. And one was the Frank Heck house. Is that a house that's
I
still?
don't remember that name.
Okay.
With the
there's a-
Reynolds house,
McReynolds.
McReynolds house. the
It's
one
as
that-
you go into Meadows, it's on the left side, right.
From this direction?
Yeah,
Going this way, it's
Yeah.
on your left. It's a 2-story Victorian, yellow. It's owned by a Smith now.
yeah, it has a little balcony on it, and it's just before you, just as you go past where you go into this old school.
Oh,
That
uh-huh.
turn is.
Is that the one that has a kind of a corner off the gable end?
Yeah, that's
'Cause I've
right.
seen old pictures that
Yeah.
show a house like that.
Yeah, there are a lot of pictures of people taken, you know, in Meadows Day from that. The one across it is the Fritzley house, but then it belonged to the banker of Meadows, actually. But it was changed a lot because it looked like there was a porch that went all the way around, and that was taken off. And that is an old house. That's the one second up from Cemetery Road on the, if you're coming
Which
this
way, this way?
If you were coming east, it would be on the left side.
Oh, and the second house after Cemetery Lane?
Yes. Mhm.
Okay, and what's the history on that house?
Well, we think that the banker, that was the banker.
He did live there. I have a
Do
a
you?
roll in there that shows him and names him. And his son was a telegraph operator.
Let's get back to that house you were talking about on the left down here.
Yeah, the
with little
McReynolds
gable.
house. Yeah,
McReynolds?
McReynolds house.
That was my grandmother's, her name, Lucy Merritt was Lucy McReynolds
Right.
before she married
Uh-huh.
Merritt.
Merritt.
Do you
John
have
Merritt.
any idea how old that house is?
No, I don't.
It looks sort of like before the turn of the century, but not, I would say probably it was built. Well, Meadows was thriving and before the railroad came
Right.
in, it was doing really well.
This woodshed on this house was a business in Meadows. They
Oh, really?
drug it up here with horses.
Huh.
They moved everything, not everything, but when New Meadows was formed, when the railroad came in, they dragged businesses down
Right.
to New Meadows,
Yeah.
from Meadows, that had building. We have some pictures from early Meadows, it looked pretty cool.
Yeah.
They even had a they even had a newspaper, obviously,
It
you're
was-
well aware of
It was
that.
quite a town, yeah.
It was.
I know what I was going to try to remember to ask you. Where was Ross's barn?
Oh, we have,
Oh, it's right on this side of the
we could.
highway about, you know where the white plastic fence is right out front?
Yeah.
Right beyond that,
Just west of it?
north.
North, just west of
Yeah,
it?
Marla's gonna get a picture.
Well, I have a picture of Morris with his Aunt Zora, and it just happened to be that the barn's right there.
Oh.
That's taken in the yard over here, and it was they owned all this land up here too, and they owned clear to the creek here too.
And the
Where the
development back
subdivision,
here.
the Krigbaum.
Edlow sold that for $6,000.
Yeah.
Where Day subdivision was.
Yeah.
And I heard a lady once say, "Oh, we were lucky. We got a lot for $40,000."
Really? Whew.
And how much did your
6,000
6,000
for the 6 acres.
all this property?
From Packer John cabin up to the end of the development.
And they owned, well, I have pictures too. They owned all this mountain up here.
Well, she bought that. My grandmother bought that from Boise Cascade, or Boise Payette.
Yeah.
Boise Payette, when they came up the logging up this way, they'd get workers to make a timber claim, and then they'd buy it from them.
And then this is going this way before the highway went in.
Right.
These are potatoes.
Right. I don't have this picture, but I have the other one. And this is looking east, I guess.
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah. And where would the highway be
It would
now?
be-
Over here?
Right, well, yes, it'd run this way,
Yeah.
up toward this canyon.
Yeah.
We're higher than the Meadows Valley part.
Yeah,
We're on
it
the
is-
edge of,
it's hard to
and we
notice
grow
that.
tomatoes.
Really?
Yes, we do. We canned them last summer.
How do you do that in Meadows
Well, we're
Valley?
not sure about it, but when we're, like, when Mickey or people down in the valley, it could be, like, say 20 degrees, it would be like 38 or 40 here. We can be as much as 20 degrees difference.
Little daughter of Ross Krigbaum burned to death at Meadows. That's 1918.
Yeah.
And she and my dad were very close in age, and they were playing with matches, and her dress caught on fire, and she ran,
Oh,
and it killed her.
yeah. And what was her name?
The bone.
Devona.
I'll put that in there.
Morris and Marla Krigbaum and John Krigbaum as narrators, and I, Dale Fisk, and Mickey Eby as interviewers herein permanently donate and convey the oral history interview which captures our images, likeness, and voice by audio, video, and/or photographic means conducted on Tuesday, February 17, 2026, to the Adams County Historical Society, and hereby give, grant, and donate this recording, all other derivative material produced in concordance such as transcripts, indexes, and finding aids, along with any and all rights, including copyright therein, to the Adams County Historical Society. We understand that conferring the copyright to the Adams County Historical Society does not prohibit us from using this interview for original work of our own creation. Morris, do you agree to this statement?
Yes.
Marla, do you agree to this statement?
Yes, sir.
Mickey, do you agree to this statement?
Yes.
And I, Dale Fisk, agree to this statement.